So then when you're doing research, there's a couple of things you're doing. So you should always have some work that you're writing, and in various stages. You should probably always have a little bit of analysis so that you can have a bit of a pipeline, so you don't get these big ups and downs in your publication record, right? You've got 6 publications come out in 1 year and then nothing, and then 2 and then nothing, right? You want to try and get a fairly steady, things are coming out, things are, right? I'm talking about things. You want to be often having a little bit of time to think about developing new projects. And that's then one of the things you can think about your relationships with others, right? Building relationships is very important. Some of you will have research goals that are primarily about academic research. What you really want to do is sit in an archive somewhere and look at these texts and think big thoughts and write things and communicate with other people in your discipline, and you would love to do that for the rest of your career, and it's probably possible to do that. Some of you will want to do things that actually contribute to other disciplines or to interdisciplinary debates, and you're going to need to be aware of what's going on there. Some of you are going to have a project, and you're really maybe a qualitative specialist and you need a statistician to really make, because you're thinking, well, actually to answer these questions I need to do some statistical analysis. Well, you know, one way to deal with that is to kind of make friends with somebody that knows how to do the quantitative stuff and do it together. But that means you have to build the relationship. You both have to be confident you can work together, that you know how it's going to work. That can take time. Some of you are going to have goals that involve doing research that not only contributes to academic debates, but contributes to debates outside of academia. And that involves a lot of relationship work, right? You actually have to get to know people that are working in those fields, whether it's policy, whether it's professional practice, whether it's community organizations, whatever it is, the people that you want to use your research, you need to really build some relationships so that you can properly understand what their needs are, and so that they trust you enough to work with you, right? Some of those people have been burned really badly by researchers before, and researchers with good intentions, most of us don't know how to communicate. And if you have that as a goal, come back here on Wednesday if you're still here, because there is a talk about knowledge mobilization by a couple of guys that know what they're talking about on the program. Get the thing with the red, okay? Because they know what they're doing. But a lot of it is based on relationships and trust, and they take time. And nobody really likes it if you seem to be too instrumental when you first meet them, right? The entire academic enterprise would collapse without coffee and beer. Seriously, right? So, you know, lunch, all of that kind of thing. It's very important. My old head of department thought I was a fabulous networker. I knew all the, you know, we'd talk in a meeting about we should do this, and I'd be like, oh, there's people in the geography department doing that. We could do that together. He's like, you're so good at networking. I'm like, Frank, I don't network. I drink coffee and I eat lunch. And I go out of my office to do that. I go to the common room and drink coffee, and I sit and chat to whoever's in there. They might be geographers or historians or whoever, and they're usually doing interesting things, and we're just chatting. Sometimes we talk about hockey, sometimes we talk about research, right? I go for lunch, same thing, right? Don't eat in your office. You never meet anybody there, okay? And you need the fresh air of walking across campus to get some food. So, you know, building relationships can be really important, both in terms of teaching. My department got restructured, and my personal view is that one issue was that there wasn't enough relationship building, and so there weren't enough other people in the institution that had an interest in us still existing, right? And so people, although they were upset about it, did not beat a path to the Vice Chancellor's door to say, you can't possibly close that department, right? Building relationships so that people know that you do good work, and you do good work that their work depends on, can be really important. And it takes time. And then you have to advance knowledge. The difference between being a student and being a full-time academic is that when you're a student, nobody actually really cares if you advance anybody's knowledge but your own. But once they start paying you to do research, they actually want you to advance somebody else's knowledge. Okay? Whether that's people in your discipline, whether it's people outside, wherever it is. If you can define your goals, it will be easier for you when you're looking for an academic position to actually identify places where your goals fit really well with the institution's goal, which will probably increase your chances of getting hired there anyway, right? If you're the kind of person that really wants to be some kind of high-flying researcher who doesn't ever really spend a lot of time with students, then, someplace like St. FX or Trent is never going to hire you, right? Because they actually have a lot of students. They're primarily an undergraduate institution and they need you to teach them, right? Similarly, right? So you just need to figure out what your goals are, what kind of research you want to be doing, what kind of an institution you want to be in. And then there's, the lottery of whether those kind of institutions have positions for you. But if you're really clear about what you want to do, where you're willing to compromise, the kinds of things you would be really unhappy doing, it's going to be easier for you to find a fit. And then the fact that you're hired based on the fact that you fit means that you don't have to worry so much about whether you're doing the right things, because you're doing the things you said you were going to do, they hired you, and as long as you do them and you do them well, that should all work. Okay? So people are going to judge you, right? And it's a good idea to know how they're going to judge you. Get good, solid information about the tenure process and what it involves. Make sure that you kind of have an idea what you need, because it takes a while to get things published, and you don't want to start a year before your review comes up, because it won't happen. Familiarize yourself with grant competitions and how those work, so that you know before you apply what kinds of things you need to have lined up, because some of those things you can't just pull together at the last minute. You need to kind of build. But then hopefully once you know some of the broad outlines of it, you can then just relax into it and do the stuff you really love to do, which is your research. Communicate that with the people who want to know it at conferences, through journals, right? Publishing is about talking to people. And when people talk about high-impact journals, it means you're talking to more people. They're like the ones where lots of people read them and where they maybe cite what you do. And you want that to happen, right? You know those times you read an article and you go, oh, this is so amazing, but if they only knew about my data. That's why you need to publish, so that they know about your data, even if they live in New Zealand. Okay? So, and if you keep that in mind, instead of I need to publish so that somebody's going to promote, you end up getting cynical, right? You need to remember that it's about talking to people, and that you love that. And that these people actually want to hear all the details that make your partner's eyes glaze over. Right? Because your partner loves you and is very supportive and will nod and smile and say, oh, that sounds interesting, dear. But really, at some point, their eyes glaze over. Okay? So the people that you're writing for are the people whose eyes will not glaze over. And that's why you need to publish.